Hello everyone! Today I've prepared 3 great dipping sauces or salsas depending on what you want to call them, but regardless of this, I think you will enjoy them. I've made a guacamole, a roasted tomato salsa, and a roasted jalapeno poblano cream sauce. Now this is my first video, and the editing and the camera work on this are not the best. But to make up for that, what I've done is I've matched the color of these dots to the color of the food bowls in the thumbnail to the video. Gotta do something. Anyway, let's get to it. So to get started, let's take a look at the ingredients for the first 2 recipes. First being the roasted tomato salsa, and while I will be including the exact amounts for everything gathered here, the cool thing about each one of these recipes today is they don't really have to be exact, and you will likely, with a few exceptions, end up with the same results. The main exception being the heat brought in by the jalapeno peppers, but I will come back to that here in a minute. For now though, what you see here are a few tomatoes, a jalapeno that has been split in half, and a few small sections cut from an onion and a poblano pepper, and of course cilantro and salt. Now on to the ingredients for the jalapeno poblano cream sauce. The first thing I want to do here is bring this jalapeno closer to the camera to get a better look at it. And let's actually bring this thing into focus a little bit. There, that's better. What you see is that I left a portion of the ribs and seeds intact to adjust for my preferred level of heat, and I recommend you do the same when making this recipe. Now while I've cut the peppers and the onions to better expose their flesh to the heating elements of the broiler, we need to do the same to the tomatoes. There is no need to get fancy with this, simply quartering them will do just fine. And I will speed up this portion of the video as it seems self-explanatory. And there you have it, everything for both recipes is now ready to go into the oven. And the whole thing should look something like this. And while you weren't looking, I've placed a rack in the center of the oven and turned the broiler up to high. This will take roughly 10 minutes in the oven, and while it is cooking, we're provided with a great opportunity to go over a little bit of food history, which is something that will be included often into my videos. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and the food is ready to come out of the oven. Everything should be lightly brown just like you see here. You could of course choose to take this browning a bit further, but be careful when doing that because it will overcook very quickly. For now though, let's move this over to the countertop where we can begin putting together our finished sauces. I've brought out a small food processor to which I will be adding 1/2 each of the jalapenos and poblano peppers to it and setting it aside. And I will add the remaining ingredients from this pan into this cup that I have conveniently placed on the table. And while I will be using an immersion blender to mix this, a tabletop blender or food processor will also do just fine. Now that everything aside from the cilantro has been added to the cup, I'm going to speed this video up as I presume you know how to press the on button on your appliance. Actually, let's slow it back down because I forgot to add the salt. That was kind of a close call there, wasn't it? Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and speed the video back up, and while my preference is to have this blended to a fairly smooth consistency, you can choose to blend this as much or as little as you would like. I'm actually going to go through a few more rounds of thinking that it is fully blended, only to find out that it is not. If I were better at making videos, I would have cut this together better than what I did. Now once you've reached your desired consistency, pour it into a bowl, preferably one like this that kind of looks fun and festive and costs like $2 at Walmart. Stir in some cilantro and you're ready to serve. But for now, we will move on to our second recipe of the day, the roasted jalapeno and poblano cream sauce. So let's get back to the food processor that we set aside a little bit ago, and to that let's add roughly 6 ounces of sour cream, the zest of 1 lime, a little bit of cilantro, some salt, and this is pretty much ready to be mixed together. And again, I will assume that you know how to operate the on button on your machine, and if you do not, this is probably not the video for you. Now that that's all blended up, this is now ready to serve. And to serve this, yellow seems like a fun color for this one, so that's what I'll use here. And after placing that into the serving bowl, let's go ahead and move on to the ingredients we will be using for the guacamole dip. Now what you see here is pretty standard: 2 small avocados, 1 jalapeno, a small section of onion, 1 lime, 1 tomato, a little bit of cilantro, salt, and I've actually got a little bit of lime left over from another recipe that I will also be adding in just to use it up. So let's start cutting up some ingredients. What I usually do with the avocados is to cut them into quarters and then cut those quarters into smaller squares because that usually winds up creating the best texture for the final product, but for some reason I forgot to do that here, but it will still turn out okay. Now we've once again reached a boring section of the video, so we can go ahead and speed this thing up. And once we've got everything diced up, we can add it to the bowl to smash together with a fork. Now if you're a lot cooler than me and you have a mortar and pestle, go for it, but I'm going to use a fork. Now let's go ahead and add the tomatoes and the cilantro, and that's pretty much it for the guacamole. Well, there you have it. That's all 3 of them. I hope everyone watching this enjoys eating these foods as much as I did showing you how to make them. And I would love to hear your feedback down in the comments on how this whole thing went. Until then, have a good day.